6:30. I'm going to call the Board of Trustees of Lamar Independent School District October 15th meeting to order. We do have a quorum with everyone present. So we'll start with reviewing the agenda items from our regular board meeting.
Thank you, Madam President. The first agenda item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve the renewal of the one-year affiliation agreement with Oak Bend Medical Center. This is where students in health science clinical courses have a chance to observe as well as shadowing medical professionals. The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve an agreement between Lamar Consolidated Independent School District and MSB Consulting Group for the administration of the SHARS, Medicaid's Consulting and Billing, and MAC, Medicaid Outreach Services program within the district, and allow the superintendent to execute the agreement.
You have a question? Yes.
I have a question. It's not necessarily about this agreement, but it's more about Medicaid itself. How much of the special ed budget comes from Medicaid?
Typically, we do not allocate the funds that way. The SHARS or the Medicaid billing funds that we get are just part of our general fund local revenues, federal portion of local revenues. So we don't specifically earmark certain transactions with this money.
So when I was reading the information provided to me, we're going to receive money from Medicaid, and we're going to pay them 6%. Is that correct? Do I understand that?
We're going to pay MSB 6% of the funds that we receive, yes. That's their service fee.
That sounds reasonable to me. The question just came, how much money do we normally receive from them on a?
Right now, our typical revenue is about $4 million from SHARS.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions?
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve the 2019-20 District Improvement and Campus Improvement Plans, and we have a presentation for the board.
Good evening, everyone. We're here to present an overview on our district improvement plan for 2019-2020 and also any questions on our campus improvement plans. So as we mentioned before, everything that we do with our district improvement plan and our campus improvement plans are aligned to our strategic plan that we worked on as a school district last year. And so we have our 5-year strategic plan, and then the annual superintendent SMART goals are aligned to that strategic plan. And then as we develop our annual district and campus improvement plans, we again go back to our strategic plan to guide all of our work. So a little bit about the district improvement plan. Under provisions of the Texas Education Code, every district is required annually to prepare a plan to improve student performance. District and campus plans are developed annually to be mutually supportive of the state goals and the objectives under Texas Education Code Chapter 4. These plans are living documents, so if we have to make some adjustments or pivot points throughout the year, we can make some changes to this document. It is intended to guide our work, and as I mentioned, the plans are aligned to the strategic plan. As a refresher, the 5 strategic priorities, which are the overarching guide for all of these plans within the strategic plan, include evolving the student learning experience, equipping our students with the knowledge and skills to succeed in a changing world, to promote a safe and healthy environment, plan for rapid growth while preserving our district culture, and to focus on talent. Again, when you look through the district improvement plan, all of the trustees actually have the full district improvement plan with much detail. We're going to provide an overview to you all this evening, but in terms of all of the strategies, all of the objectives, they're all outlined in the handout and will be posted online once the board approves it. And we'll start with strategic priority 1. And Dr. Mosich.
On evolving the student learning experience, we have the ensuring access to engaging, rigorous, real-world learning opportunities and up-to-date technology. The goal of that particular piece, obviously with the superintendent goal, is to ensure by the end of our accountability, or at the end of, in August, we have more no C schools, and more students, or more schools at an A and or B level. Next piece is equipping all parents and guardians with the tools to support student learning. Once again, 90% of all of our campus goals at the campus level will be achieved. And then the third one is expanding available resources to provide learning that is personalized to each student's interests and abilities in order to eliminate gaps. And in the superintendent goal, it's articulated with RTI practices as well as PLCs. In that process, with the end goal again is an A and B on all of our campuses. So when we look at some of the activities that are part of the Evolving the Student Learning Experience, we have highlighted the instructional rounds training for all of our campus administrators. The focus of that is in observing classrooms to collect information, really kind of some data sources for us so we can guide both campus PD and district PD to kind of help evolve that student learning experience at that Tier 1 level. The second piece is GT Facilitators will emphasize the units of robotics as well as country and cultures throughout the school year as well in their pull-out program at the elementary level. Special education is introducing an instructional design tool for co-teachers and for general ed teachers together so that we can ensure that we are providing high-quality instruction in the inclusion classrooms. Digital learning is also scheduling the TEKS training that are identified within the scheduled TEKS of 8th grade is where we assess information, and we will utilize that again to provide information for us in providing quality professional development for our teachers. And then, of course, our parent engagement opportunities in Project Learn, Pre-K, EL, Family Engagement, and Summer Connect. The second portion, there's a couple of pictures of the instructional rounds training as well as in our Summer Connect program. The next priority is equipping students with knowledge and skills to succeed in a changing world, ensuring that our LCISD graduates have effective critical thinking, problem solving, and communication skills in order to be successful in professional and personal relationships. Once again, you can see the end goal articulated in the superintendent goal. The second objective is ensuring our curriculum equitably prepares students to achieve their preferred career aspirations by enhancing both rigorous career and technical education and college preparatory programs. So the CTE program as well as our advanced placement program and our dual credit program as well. Then also increasing student families and community members' awareness of and access to all available academic programs. As you go through the process in this, instructional walks, which is also going into classrooms, particularly we're highlighting the CTE classrooms and the advanced placement classrooms, so that we can also assist in guiding campus PD as well as district PD to provide our teachers with the necessary supports and training to have the high quality instruction that we want to see that are going to yield the learning that is needed to be successful in the CTE program as well as in our advanced studies areas. Campus libraries providing recurring makerspace opportunities. Teachers can bring them into the library to provide that. CCMR action plans to monitor that, and test preparation opportunities for our college testing assessments, TSIA, ACT, and SAT, and then finally Naviance and Zello trainings for staff and for parents.
And a couple of photos here referencing some of the things that Dr. Mossage talked about, including the recent Manufacturing Day over at TSTC, which had a great turnout, partnership with TSTC and the Chamber. And then again, in terms of makerspace, there's various activities, but you see one of our students, I believe that's at Thomas Elementary, going through that process. So moving on to Strategic Priority 3. Again, there are 3 objectives in Strategic Priority 3. The first one is to increase our mental and emotional health supports and resources to improve social and emotional well-being among our students. One of the primary initiatives is our Character Counts training, and there are 5 pillars, which include trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. The focus is around respect, which is the trait for October. Moving on to objective 3.2, around ensuring that our disciplinary interventions are really equitable all across the district and that we're implementing them in a fair and consistent way. And that's aligned to our superintendent SMART goal that talks about having a 5% reduction in both our out-of-school and in-school suspensions by the end of this school year. Objective 3.3 really goes back to facility safety and how technology and all of our facilities are working together to provide safe and inclusive environments. And one of the things we implemented last year was our SRP protocols, and we want to make sure that we have 100% drill compliance are happening as they are outlined at each of our campuses each month throughout the year. And so again, just a high-level overview. All of our district and campus administrators will be trained on grief and on trauma-informed care. So grief-informed training deals with our youth mental health first aid process, and then the trauma training goes back to trust-based relational interventions, and Dr. Roberts is actually being trained on that, and she's going to come back and train all of our counselors and staff, so we have sort of an expert in-house. As I mentioned, all of our campuses are participating in the character counts training. Social media monitoring, we've talked about Social Sentinel, and that's a program that we have in the school safety department that also partners with community relations. And there's an algorithm that goes around a geofenced area of Lamar CISD that looks for any kind of threatening language, or if a student actually makes a comment that they may harm themselves. Everyone on both the safety and the mental health and wellness team gets an alert and a text message in real time, and we check that. And so if it's a threat or a terroristic threat, inappropriate comment, we would send police officers out there, and if it's a cry for help, we would make sure that we connect them with our crisis response team or the counselors with Dr. Roberts. Solution-focused training for counselors. All of our counselors are getting trained on this through a behavioral RTI model, and really it's just how it sounds, solution-focused training, and we're trying to equip our students with how they can come up with immediate solutions to some of the problems they might be dealing with right in front of them. And then finally, software training and support to ensure safety drill compliance. We talked about with the SRP, we want all of our campuses to do those monthly drills around our school safety initiatives. Last year, they reported that to the school safety coordinator via email and sort of an Excel spreadsheet is how we started tracking those. But through the Raptor system, which is what you have when you walk into any campus and you swipe your ID badge for folks who don't have a district badge, that program actually has a module where you can upload and you can track and run reports to make sure that all of our APs and principals are running those reports. And so Mr. Warren has been diligently keeping track of all those, and as of today, we are 100% in compliant through the first couple of months of school. And then again, referencing safety drills, that's obviously an evacuation drill at one of our campuses, and then some of the counselor training, including Dr. Roberts, has already begun. Strategic priority 4, planning for rapid growth while preserving our district culture. This has 4 objectives which align to the strategic plan. Maintaining neighborhood school structure and a unified community feeling. This really goes back to utilizing the structures we have in place with our LCISD zoning process, our master plan principles, our attendance boundary committees, to ensure that as we are adding additional schools and that student enrollment increases, that we're following the board approved processes. Actively seeking to engage and involve all stakeholders and groups and community partners as the district grows. I know one of the things that we forward on to the board members is our internal newsletter. And so one of the things that we're planning right now and preparing to launch in January is an external newsletter. I know some of the things that we send out to staff is really for all stakeholders, but then there's some information specifically to staff members. So the external newsletter would be more tailored to information that would be really for parents, citizens, community members, in addition to the highlights and things that are going out. Objective 4.3, continue to build and maintain equitable campus buildings and shared district support facilities that align with the district's growth. And the comprehensive building review that's been going on, the facilities assessment, will be complete by January of 2020. And the final objective under this strategic priority is to ensure that budget and staffing plans equitably meet the changing student and staff needs as Lamar CISD grows. And that references the TASB salary study that we're going to utilize. Every few years we go back to TASB and have them assess the market and give us feedback, but Dr. Bone will have more information on that in a moment. So again, some of the high-level areas from this strategic priority include the attendance boundary committees, and you have actually an information item in your board book this month which outlines the process for Tameron. Following that, we would have secondary zoning coming up for both Randall High School and Wright Junior High School. We mentioned launching the external newsletter, the facility and assessment survey, which is a comprehensive plan of all of our existing facilities, which again is scheduled for January of 2020. And one of the things that both support services and our business office, they're working on to align with that facility assessment survey is developing a standard for furniture maintenance and replacement. So outside of the actual wear and tear on the facilities, but whether it's the front office furniture or furniture found throughout the building, making sure we have a cycle and a plan to make sure that we're actually updating those individual pieces as well. And again, that's a reference to the internal, tailor that to an external audience, and we've referenced the facilities assessment. So moving now to Strategic Priority 5.
Thank you. Strategic Priority 5 has 4 main objectives, all of them related to focusing on talent. The first is to prioritize compensation and benefits, and that's aligned with the superintendent's SMART goals with the intent that we use the TASB study data to effectively plan our compensation package for the upcoming years to be market competitive. The second objective is related to differentiated professional development for staff, and this is a little bit aligned with some of the work that we've done through our leadership development in the Holsworth, and the superintendent SMART goal directly related to it is updating our intranet to be reflective of our framework so that people understand what opportunities are out there as well as what the expectations are. Objective 5.3 is to provide career pathways and advancement opportunities throughout the organization. And again, this is aligned with our superintendent SMART goal related to our leadership pipeline. One of our initial goals is to increase our applicant pool in our assistant principal group by about 10% each selection or each interview period. There's also other objectives related to our leadership development. The purpose of these 5.2 and 5.3 is really about advancing people into leadership roles in our organization, making the opportunities available to them, making sure they understand what the required competencies are, how we communicate that information to them, and then how we build our pipeline to prepare them. And that's some of the work done through Teaching and Learning, being our cohort group, our University of Houston Victoria cohort group, as well as our Bridge program and our collaborative cohorts with the principals. And Objective 5.4 is about increasing the awareness of the district. And one of the things that we've set forth as the superintendent's goal is to create some type of marketing material that highlight what the district is doing. In other words, letting people know we're here and what we bring to the table. Some of the key activities that we're going to use as part of the strategic planning goal to focus on talent is as Mr. Rockwood mentioned, our TASB study. Every 5 years or so, we work with the Texas Association of School Boards to prepare data that shows how we're doing in the market. We pick comparable districts and see how we're aligned with them. And actually, we start that project this week. Our kickoff call is tomorrow. So we are basically beginning to be in the throes of that multi-month project that will help guide us as we move forward in planning our next year's budget and salary package. We also do an annual health and benefits review with the purpose being to use the resources that we have and maintain the viability of a health plan that includes premiums that are affordable as well as services that are affordable. I also mentioned the 2 objectives that relate to leadership development. And again, we're going to use some of our existing resources, being our own intranet and our current processes. We're going to refine those based on feedback that we've received, how we're doing, so that we can continue to grow the work that we're doing and further our leadership development activities and opportunities for staff. And then lastly, we're also in the early stages of developing a marketing video that will be used out on the recruitment trail and as well in our existing resources to really highlight the work that we do, and we'll do that through employee and community member testimonials and highlights. And this gives you, just as we've mentioned, you've heard us talk about the framework and the assistant principal selection process, and this is just kind of a graphic that we prepare and share with interested parties so that they understand what the process is as well.
Okay, if there are any questions from the board around any of the pieces of the strategic plan, we're happy to answer those at this time.
Go ahead. On page 23, and I apologize, I have not gone through this extensively a lot this last 3 days. Under Objective 3.2, it says solution-focused specialist certification will be earned by at least 25% of the LCISD counseling staff. That seems low. What numbers are we talking about in counseling, for the counselors?
So all of our counselors are going through the training, and it's a multi-tiered training process. And so depending on the videos that they need to submit and getting critique on their skill sets, depends on when they will receive the certification. The goal is for all of them to eventually receive it. This year, we're looking at hopefully having the 25%.
About how many counselors do we have?
80.
Are we short?
Well,
Or what would you like to see?
Did you say 80?
That's a loaded 80.
yes, sir.
80,
Yes, sir.
district-wide.
Yes, sir.
Elementary, junior high, high school?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I
In your
think-
perfect world, what would you think would be a good number?
Well, we've put together a recommendation under the whole child safety and wellness model to get us closely aligned to the ASCA model, the American School Counseling Association model, and we're in the process of doing that. We're not there yet, but I feel confident that we will get there. I think we're working on when that timeline will actually be.
So we don't really have a number that we're reaching toward.
It's really all dependent
It's
on
just
enrollment, because
on the
it's a
enrollment.
student counselor ratio matrix. So it really all depends on enrollment. So there's not just like a magic number.
So right now, we're at 80 counselors for the entire district.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
Y'all got anything? Go ahead.
I do, but
Okay.
I'll.
No, go ahead.
Okay. Well, for you, what you said y'all were working on it, what is your estimated timeframe for that?
We have a 5-year plan and working on getting towards that. We've been in that process for a couple of years, so we're looking at really within the next, I would say, 3 years, 4 to 3 years of getting to the magic number. Now, understand, it's a process, and we're moving towards that incrementally.
In April of last year as well, we did provide the board a presentation on where we were based upon the plan that was delivered to you guys the year before as a status report. That 5-year plan is still in place, and we have added some counselors based upon the enrollments and the targets that are articulated within that plan as well.
Okay, I rolled on in May, so I'm hit the mark a little later. So are we gonna get another update kind of thing in April again with where we are? Or
Yes, if that was exactly what you would like, then we can do that, yes.
That'd be great.
And kind of a status report of where we are currently.
that'd be perfect, thank you. And then I have
Go
a
ahead.
different item. Are we
Go
moving on from that?
Go ahead.
Okay, so, as part of, let's see, what was the next one that I wanted to know? For, it's for the Kansas, let's see, so it's, I'm going to try to remember, sorry, I got me thrown off a little bit. So it's under, is it page 5? Page 6, sorry. So as far as the community and student engagement, I noticed that it says the Canvas, one of the strategic planning priority 1, SMART goal 2, the Canvas learning management system has not been adopted as a learning tool by the majority of parents and students. So I don't know where this would fit in. I know that it's mentioned in another part, but as a parent, I also feel like that needs to be a goal of the teachers to all be involved as well, because as a parent, I'm not finding a consistency with the teachers using Canvas either. I know it's a newer, we haven't had that system for very long, but I feel like in order to have all the majority of parents engaged, the majority of teachers need to be engaged as well and have a consistent usage of the
Consistent
system.
implementation.
Yes, actually, being able to go on there and all teachers are using it, I think should be definitely a goal. I don't know when we would set that goal for, but I think that needs to be a part of, it might be in a different section.
Those were specifically the page 5 or page 6 that you're looking at are kind of through our needs assessment.
So on page 11, Ms. Williams, if you look there, it talks about the campus is setting goals
Okay.
on Canvas usage.
Canvas specifically. yeah.
Yes, ma'am, and that is where each campus has identified their target for teacher training and teacher usage for this year. And those teachers are getting ongoing training to help the campus meet that goal. So the consistency that you're speaking of is the goal for this year, to ensure that every teacher is using Canvas and that then every parent is able to access the resources online.
So, but with, I guess if it's per campus, how are we monitoring that as a district, though, that they're enforcing that?
Yes, ma'am. So we've set a minimum standard. There's actually 3 levels of usage.
Okay.
So we've set everyone will use at this level. And then the digital learning coaches visit campuses every week. So they're monitoring, working with that principal on the training plan that they've laid out for the year, tracking teacher attendance, tracking teacher usage, and the administrative team on campus is monitoring the teacher implementation. So it is a work in progress. You're not going to see that everyone is up and running at this point in the year, because this is a goal and that training plan lasts all year long to make sure everybody's at that same level of expertise.
So what's the basic minimum that we're requiring right now per, like, teacher?
So every teacher has to have a class or a teacher webpage. Their homepage has to be up and working. They have to have a schedule of their class schedule and when tutorials are available, things like that. And then they have to maintain their calendar. So over on the right side there, they have to update their calendar with assignments. And then we're asking them to add at least one content component to their course is the minimum expectation.
Okay, and so who, if that's not happening, who is following up on that?
The campus administrators, as they work through their T-test process and they work through that implementation plan, the campus administrators, whether that be an assistant principal or principal, would be the one to be working with that teacher to get up and running.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
On that Canvas thing, and I'm just trying, I've done this over the years, the campus improvement plans,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, I went through some of them, and some mention Canvas as their goal, but some do not.
I think it just depends on the level of confidence and expertise on the campus, whether they specifically identify that in their plan. Every campus is using Canvas. Every campus is setting their Canvas goal, and that's reflected in the district improvement plan, but every campus may not have included it in their campus plan.
As far as their plan.
Right, their highest
I
priority.
mean, it's mandatory
issues.
that they do
Yes,
get
ma'am.
it going, but they don't have it in their plan. So
Right, yes,
I
ma'am.
should just remember that when I'm reading this.
Right, their
Okay.
campus plans highlight, anywhere from 1 to 5 high priority goals on their campus. They're high points of focus. Canvas may or may not be within that top tier of focus
Right.
for this year, but every campus is using Canvas.
Okay.
Okay, go ahead.
If I had had more time, I'm not sure I would have read all 43 PDF files that were an average of 25 pages each
Very interesting.
for the campus.
Yeah.
I would have read more, I probably read about 3 or 4, but I got it late Friday evening and, life happens. So, I do have a couple questions about this piece of it, though. So, page number 4. There's a very vague statement. I think it's a good statement, but I'm just kind of wondering, can you put a little more detail into it? It says the second thing listed there, that campus will improve school climate by decreasing the number of disciplinary incidents and the days students spend in suspension. So my first thought was, are we going to, kids that really need to go to, INS or in-school suspension or whatever, are we just going to gloss over it and send them back to class to improve our stats? How is this going to be?
Well, there's a number of strategies that we're utilizing. One of those is the RTI Practice. And so what we're trying to do is lower the number of in-school suspensions and out-of-school suspensions that are happening district-wide. And those are the ones that are directly reported to TEA. And so when you begin to look at the RTI Practice, there could be a number of things that happen as far as a kid that is continuing to misbehave. And a lot of that can also be from the counselor support, teacher support, trusted adult support, but a system and a support net at the campuses to continue the high expectations, but also provide the necessary supports. And the goal of the discipline is to change the behavior, but it's just to change the behavior. And we feel that between the counselors working together, the teachers working together, administration and parents together, we will be able to achieve that goal. But you're asking the specific question,
Yes,
are we just going to tolerate inappropriate behavior? That is not what we will be doing.
And that would assume, though, also, and correct me if I'm wrong, that you'd have enough counselors, and they would have enough time to actually counsel students, as opposed to doing all the other things that counselors are doing.
Well, that's one of the roles of a counselor, but there's a lot of other staff members on a campus that can help in intervention and ways in which we can create behavior plans and support networks for kids that are not always just on the shoulders of the counselors. It's the whole entire staff kind of working together to intervene as we start to see misbehavior starting to increase.
And actually, Mr. Welch, if you turn to page 23 and 24, that gives a little bit more detail around some of our disciplinary practices and what some of the strategies and activities are. And that references some of the things that Dr. Moss has talked about in terms of campus counseling, et cetera. But then it even goes to some of like the DAEP, JJAEP workflows and some of the tracking systems that they're working on for the school year. So those two pages, 23 and 24, kind of get a little deeper into specifically disciplinary practices.
I think it's noble. My thought is, though, I think this is more of a cultural and societal issue and a family issue, and us in the school district are dealing with what's going on at the house sometimes. Anyway, that's a side. I do have another question about software on page 10. It says, towards the bottom, we will annually update all the software, including OS Windows, Office Suite, and Adobe Suite, to the latest version. So I wanted to. I'm asking for an estimate here. I'm not asking for detailed. How many computers are we talking about? You're going to keep updated on this, and
tens of thousands. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we have a Windows volume license that covers all of that. It's one single purchase that gives us the volume license for the latest version of Windows for our end user machines and our servers.
and you also have a license with Adobe, I assume, a separate license.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Because I use all three of these in my professional world, and I'm sitting there thinking, and I don't know in the schools. I've been in a lot of the schools, but I don't know if the sixth graders using Word or Excel, and they need the absolute latest software program, or of course I can see the high schools needing the latest and greatest, but I didn't know exactly how the updates work throughout the district.
So each year, most of our student devices are re-imaged with the latest image, which is not necessarily an update. It's the most up-to-date version of the operating system and the Office software, or the Office 365 online. By doing it with volume licensing, it actually saves us a lot of money. And you want the latest versions of these, especially for security, to make sure all of our software is with the latest security patches and everything else. Regardless of the usage, it's also a big security issue for us. And education gets a really nice discount.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's all I got.
Ms.
You have a
Kaminsky?
question?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Page 16, when we're talking about the CTE, Career and Technical Education, I'm just curious about if someone has a request that they would like to see, I'm going to use CDA, Child Development Associates, okay, as an example. How how does it get to this program? What does it take to get an approval to add another subject like CDAs?
One of the things that, obviously that would be a request into Joel Garrett to begin with, as we begin to kind of review kind of the processes and procedures. But the first thing that we have to do is to ensure that that certification meets the state requirements as one that is going to certify a kid in a CCMR index. And so the commissioner released about 220 certifications that are covered to provide that. But we are looking for market kind of connections in regard to that if we have them at the school, when they leave the campuses, are they going to be able to make a living and transition out into the public? Because we want to ensure that we're providing the marketplace the quality positions that they're wanting and that are needed at that point. So from a volume standpoint as well.
Okay, so I'm using like even business, we were talking about a lot of students don't leave with any experience business-wise, how to fill out applications and all that. Is there any kind of a program that's set up in the CTE for that?
Dr. Maxwell, specifically, I think a lot of our content teachers in the CTE department are going through those pieces, those skill sets with them, but I know Dr. Maxwell could probably speak to that in more detail.
So just to reiterate your question, are you looking at courses that offer training for students to fill out applications for business sense? I just want clarity on your question,
Well,
please.
I guess I'm going to go back to when I was in school. We actually had a half of a semester of business, and it was simply filling out your own bank statements or reading, making out checks, balancing, being able to walk in and fill out an application. I know nowadays everybody wants to just do on the computer, but a lot of requirements are to actually fill out.
Yes.
Are there any programs like that
So
in the
many of our
CTE?
courses integrate many of those skill sets into those courses, and they have to be aligned to the Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills for those content areas and those courses. And so some of those are embedded into the CTE courses so that students come away understanding how to be prepared to go into the business world.
So it's it's sprinkled out?
Yes, and they have to be aligned to the TEKS from the state. And so they have to go through that and ensure that helping those students become prepared.
So the teachers, it says, well, the district will cultivate expertise in teaching and learning as a means of improving student achievement. I guess my question when I was kind of reading is, how do we make this stronger?
Teaching and learning?
Yeah, how do we make it stronger so that the students that are not going to college are able to get some of these degrees while they're in school to be able to go out and to work?
Part of that is the instructional experience at the Tier 1 level. As we know, as you will see articulated in our focusing on higher order questioning, academic conversations at the Tier 1 level, close reading, and writing to elaborate learning. What we're trying when we talk about expertise in teaching and learning is that we are focusing on some very high-yield strategies instructionally that are happening at the Tier 1 level where it will improve student learning and student understanding. And so when you're looking at in our classrooms at the Tier 1 level, are we utilizing those tools and those strategies in the instructional process to get the highest yield out of our kids? When you're looking at CTE and advanced placement, some of the end standardized exams that we have, those are at a level of reading. It's not back in another day, kids could transition to high school and then to a career certification, and the assessment was not as strenuous. But we know whether or not you're going into a career preparation program, whether you're going into college, the level of learning or the level of understanding to be able to read, to be able to write, to critically think are important key components to help our kids to be successful. Because our goal is to ensure that at the CTE level, at the AP level, that we are graduating kids that have the ability to transition, and that is basically ensuring that the learning that they're experiencing is at a level for them to be successful on those exams as well.
Okay.
I have just a couple of brief questions. The first is really just a comment. I know that Ms. Williams and Mr. Welch and I had some questions, and we kind of jumped on the bus right after the whole child wellness presentation in May. But I think that it might be helpful for us maybe to get a presentation on the whole child wellness model as a whole before next April, just because I know that we have a lot of questions, and I know it's also really a bright spot for the district, and so I'd like to see what we're doing. So just a suggestion that might be helpful. My second question is, so there's a lot of like specific evaluations in here that have numbers associated with them. Do we receive either throughout the year or at the end of the year a report card on how we're doing?
Yeah, one of the things that the board requested recently was a DIP quarterly academic update. And so what we do is come back every 3 months or so, and we talk about just what our progress is on these areas, what are some of the things that we've been implementing. So when we reference these trainings, it might be, these are some of the things that have been implemented, and we talk about a percentage, such as 25 or 50%. We would update those in that as well, and then give the board, similar to this evening, another opportunity to ask questions and make sure, again, as we referenced up front, it is a living, breathing document. We can make some adjustments, and if the board feels like we're maybe lacking in an area, we can ramp up the effort, et cetera.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, you good? I have one more. Okay.
One more. Go ahead.
Well, I'm going to go to the campus improvement plans. I'm just trying to read them and understand them. Simple question. When you're referring to coaches, is that the same as counselors?
No, ma'am. Those are our literacy coaches or math coaches, instructional coaches that are based on the campus.
Do all campuses have the coaches now?
Yes, at the elementary level.
At the elementary level,
Yes.
yes.
All should have that in their reports? Okay.
Oh, no, should have those people on campus. They all have math and reading count.
And then how do you relate to, it said .25 coach?
I'm going to let Kathleen speak to the .25
There was a
portion of that.
.5 such and such. How should I read that?
So the issue is we look at staffing allocations in whole units, a teaching unit being a 1 if it's allocated 100% full-time. So a .25, they could be there a quarter of the time or half of the time. The coaches could be split among campuses. It really just depends on the needs of the campus and how they use their allocations.
So when I'm seeing that in several different ones, that's the coach that's moving from one campus to
Some
another.
coaches in some of our fields are itinerants and some are shared.
I think also what you're seeing is certain funding sources for a campus. So it may be a full-time person, a full-time position, but a .25 of their job role is coming from funding of state comp ed or funding of title federal funds. And so they're documenting that in their plan to show that they're using their federal funding to fund that portion of the job salary for this particular individual. Most of our coaches, all of our instructional coaches at the campus level, the literacy coaches, math science coaches, are on one campus. So that person could be, it might be a half-time person. I don't know of any campuses that have a quarter of a person. It's usually they have a full-time person, they're just funding
They're
in
just
multiple
labeled
sources.
it different,
Yes,
okay.
ma'am.
What about paras? Are they labeled different in these reports?
It depends. That's a relative question. Some of it depends on how they're funded and what their job role is because we have different types of paras.
So not all of your staffing allocations are going to be in your campus improvement plan. Just those that are required with federal funds or state comp ed funds are going to be reflected in the plan.
I'm with John about these reports. There's so many, and years ago, we used to have all of them, and I would be crazy enough to print all of them. So now I just take the smallest school, the middle school, and then start comparing them. And the money allocations, I was surprised. Like Taylor Ray, 96,000 comparing to Beasley was 65,000. But those were title
funds are allocated.
Title funds, that's the
based on
difference in that.
student
Because one that was not Title I was 13,000.
Right, it has to do with student
Am
enrollment.
I understanding it the correct way?
Yes,
Okay.
ma'am.
And again, these are roadmaps that each school produces of what they individually need. So what's good in one school is not necessarily going to work
Right.
in another school.
Yes.
That's why.
That's why they're Title ones.
Okay. All right. You okay?
Yes.
Okay.
I have one more.
Okay. And
So
we
on
need to move.
page 18, for the objective 2.3, the fourth activity down, it says college and career facilitators will provide an ambiance and
Zello training.
opportunities for parents. What's the plan to train the parents?
That is going to be school by school through the CFS, but Dr. Maxwell can speak to that because he's in charge of the campus facilitators.
Yes, campus and college facilitators, and so we're working campus by campus to determine the best way to meet all the needs of each parent at the parents group at each campus. We've also looked at how do we best communicate with the parents at each of those campuses, and so working with each campus college career facilitator, we're looking at their audience, we're looking at determining what's the best way to meet the needs of those parents and the audience that way, whether it includes electronic communication, paper communication, and also parent nights to come in and inform parents of these different technology units such as Zello or Naviance.
Okay, and so so the timeline is before, so you're assuming that training is going to happen before the end of the school year?
Yes, ma'am. And so part of that is planning with each of the college career facilitators.
Okay. And so I'm assuming like the principals will be sharing that information with the parents in their weekly emails or however?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
So are the college and career facilitators being understanding about what's happening with Naviance? I guess because I'm just saying, like with my daughter, we've been putting in some of her hours, and they've been kicked back many times. And then this last email that I got was like, sorry, that's it, can't put anything else in, these are all declined.
So we are
like,
working.
that's it, no more.
We're working with Naviance with the college career facilitators to ensure they understand how the system works so that we can
Yeah.
communicate with parents. But yes, we'll work on that as well.
Okay, I'm sure I can't be the only mom that's happened with.
That's interesting, yes.
So it would be great to get more training on that, because like I said, she's a freshman and none of us really understand it.
Yes,
how to-
ma'am.
How to
Nice
put
to
it in
show the rest of us
correctly.
to.
Yes,
Yeah,
ma'am.
so I'm sure I'm not the only one. So that's great to hear that there's going to be more training on that.
Yes.
Okay.
Will these be evening meetings with?
We're going to try to work it out best as possible with each of the campuses, and we're going to try to have multiple opportunities for learning.
Well, if we're allowed to know when some of those of us that don't have children in the district, I would like to see some of the training myself.
Yes, ma'am.
Great.
Okay. All right, thank you. Is that it? Thank you very much for all your hard work. I think we're okay.
Yeah, teed it up good.
This is always, between the district and the schools, a lot of work that goes into making sure that they're all on the right page.
Madam President, the next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees ratify the quarterly investment reports. The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees ratify the financial and investment reports. The next item, we ask that
Sorry,
Page 50.
so page 54, we're not there yet?
No, we're just now.
We're
just now.
approaching 54 now.
Okay.
You're right there.
We ask that the board consider approval of budget amendment request.
Okay, now we're there.
Now we're there. Okay, so on page 56, I had a question about the first paragraph on page 56. It says the budget change for funds donated to the district by outside parties that were not expended. These funds need to be carried forward so that they can be used for their intended purposes. Can you give more details on who the outside parties are that donate those funds?
I can give you information on that. Of course, not at this particular moment, but just generally speaking, There are some, like the donations that are 5,000 and greater actually come before the board, but we also receive other donations from parties like PTOs, PTAs, booster clubs. The donations come from various sources. And then if they're over a certain amount, they have to be run through the general fund budget. And so then at the end of the year, when the funds aren't spent, then we roll it forward to the next year. Because there's some projects that aren't completed by the end of the year.
Okay, so like if it comes from PTO or a booster club or something, it's only going to be specifically spent on that, but if it's not completed yet, we roll over.
That's
something.
Correct. Like if they donate money for technology equipment or something and they order it August the 20th, and then the computers or whatever haven't come in by the end of the year, then those funds and the purchase orders are rolled forward to the next year.
Because your year starts October 1st.
September 1st.
September 1.
Yes.
So if anything's not purchased by
Yes.
September 1, then, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, we're not a real, we're the school year. It's
Right.
kind of hard to remember that. All right, any other questions? Okay, thank you.
The next item, the board has an opportunity to nominate someone for position 4B of the Texas Association of School Board if the board so chooses to do so. The next item, we ask the board.
You have I'm not interested, but I have a typo, I think, that we have. On page 57, it mentions there's 5 meetings, and on page 59, it mentions there's 4 meetings, so I guess if no one's going to be nominated, it doesn't matter.
Do what now? Page 57.
It says 5 meetings. Well, that's at the convention.
Yeah. One is considering the convention, too, I guess.
That's why it says 5.
Is that,
I don't know.
there's only 4, so it's a misprint?
Maybe Joe wants to go.
I tried for this a few years ago. You needed more CASB training. So if anyone's interested, we can nominate.
Okay.
Let's move on.
The next item, we ask the board to approve the resolutions proclaiming Parent Involvement Week.
Have a question about that.
Okay.
Is
Yes?
that you?
Yes.
Okay, so what is that? I noticed that we have an event, I looked up on the website for that week. The only thing I saw was Parent Involvement Day on November the 21st.
Usually different schools do different things during it. That's when they have usually muffins for moms and donuts for dads, or they do some sort of activity in
So
this.
it's per campus?
Per campus, if I'm correct on that.
Yes.
So there's no minimum requirements of what they do, we just leave it up to the different campuses?
It's articulated to the campus principals, and they organize that based upon their community and the community needs.
Okay.
So it is campus-based.
Okay, do they share with us what they're actually going to do?
It's all on the website, like the events.
I didn't see for that week.
Well, they might not have already, because
I saw a
this is
bunch
for
of them on
November.
Yeah, I looked through it.
Not necessarily just that week, but kind of through the month.
I was wondering why it's that week if we don't have anything listed, you know what I mean? Like how that works.
Yeah. They'll be starting to put more things up
Okay.
as it gets closer, and once we approve it, I guess.
So it'll be on the website?
Yes, and communicated through the principals
Yeah.
Okay,
and on the website.
okay.
The next item, we ask the board to approve the Centrepointe Energy Terms and Conditions and Facilities Extension Agreement for the package of the high school and junior high school in the amount of $80,500.
I have a question on that. Of course, if Centrepointe needs to put it in, they have to put it in. Is this additional money than what was already approved, or is this just something that wasn't ready to be approved previously?
No, so this is included in the budget with the construction of the high school and junior high. So it is part of that budget.
It's part of that budget.
Yes, sir.
It says the funds were allocated within the 2017 bond
Yes, ma'am.
budget.
And when the the middle school's built in the future, will they have to come back and run?
They will
That'll
have
be
to do
another
a terms and conditions, yes, because that includes how the infrastructure is built going for the power to come to the school. Yes.
Gotcha.
And that's a future bond.
Getting a real education here and all this.
The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve the deductive change order number 1 in the amount of $33,825.04 and final payment of $52,158.75 to Bass Construction for the replacement of cooler freezers at 8 elementary schools, and authorize the Board President to sign the change order. The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve change order number 1 in the amount of $61,113 to the contract with Ramala Construction Company for permitting fees paid to the City of Fulshire for Tamaron Elementary School, and authorize the Board President to execute the change order document. The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve Terracon for the geotechnical study for Jane Long Historical Gym renovations in the amount of $3,350. The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to authorize the administration to utilize construction manager at risk as a construction method of procurement with the evaluation criteria for interior, exterior additions and renovations at Lamar Consolidated High School, Trailer Stadium, and Lamar Junior High.
Y'all have any questions?
The next item, we ask the Board.
Did you have a question?
No.
Okay.
The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees authorize the administration to utilize construction manager at risk as a construction method of procurement with the evaluation criteria for the additions and renovations at Terry High School and George Junior High School. The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve environmental solutions for hazardous material surveying services for the Jane Long Historical Gym renovations in the total amount of $860, and authorize the Board President to execute the agreement. The next item, we ask the Board of Trustees to approve environmental solutions for hazardous material surveying services for the Alternative Learning Center additions and renovations in the total amount of $1,040, and authorize the Board President to execute the agreement. The next item, we have to ask the Board, recommend that the Board of Trustees approve Terracon for additional materials testing for Fulshire High School synthetic turf projects in the amount of $3,000. The next item is a discussion and action on parent-family engagement recommendations.
Did you have some, do we do information tonight, or do it?
That is strictly up to the Board.
Do you have anything to share?
Can I read my little spiel here?
Go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, so Alex, Nate, and I had a chance to get together and meet about the committee, and so I'll go ahead and read what we came up with. Excuse me. In alignment with the district strategic plan and superintendent SMART goals, in order to promote our district as a destination community to ensure continued and sustainable growth, Alex, Mandy, and I asked the board to approve the following recommendations of the Family and Community Engagement Committee. We would like to have 5 meetings before spring break 2020, 1 per track, each 1 to 1.5 hours at each high school. The first portion of the event would be information from the board and administrators Alex has offered to moderate, with the rest of the event allowing families and community members to visit with the different groups specifically chosen per track, board, and to meet with board of trustees and administrators. We would like to offer some light food, some giveaways, and hopefully have some entertainment. We would provide an opportunity to write down questions for the people in attendance to write down questions for the board and administration to be answered via email at a later time. Excuse me. We would ask for the district's assistance with the logistical details for each event, possibly working with Sydney or Lindsay from Community Relations, as well as meet with district representatives per track before the events to understand the accomplishments, resources, and information about the future growth of each area to highlight at the event. We would need to set a budget per event, and we would like to make this a standing committee for future engagements with the families and community as desired.
Any questions? Yes. Go ahead.
Anybody else?
No, right now, go ahead.
I would like to attend these as well. I can just envision it right now, it being more of a, instead of a board parent engagement time or evening, I can see it, the burden being more on the administration. If we have a formal thing where someone's emceeing, giving a presentation, because I can just anticipate questions from parents at the various tracks, and me as a board member going, Dr. Randall, Dr. Mossage, can you answer that for us?
Answer that.
And I don't,
That's why we have, I'm saying if they have questions, they can write it down and we'll email them at a later date. I mean, is that what you mean? Or are you saying if they just say hello, they're going to ask us something that we don't know?
well, I guess it sounds a little more formal than I had envisioned originally.
We were going to try to keep that kind of portion very short, maybe 15, 20 minutes, just a little bit of a kind of intro with that. If you have some questions, we're glad to write them down, get back to you with the answers to that. But really, it's more kind of a walk around, there's different things you can interact with kind of
It's
thing.
not like putting a board member at a table.
No,
Ms.
like.
Williams, would you turn your mic on?
Oh, sorry.
Thank you.
Is there a way before that we could get a copy of what you just read so that
Sure.
each
Let
one
me,
of
let
us
me
clean it
chew up
up
the grammar a little
and maybe
bit
send
and
it to Karen and have her email it to
Yes,
us?
and our vision definitely was not a formal thing, like having the tables on the line. So just a short presentation to give some highlights, like I said, in the here, things that we've done with, our past bond money and things that are coming up per track, and then just very casual environment after that. So that is the anticipation. Then we're kind of walking around and whoever's there but they may even be more interested in the tables and who has come versus even, so it's up to the parents and whoever comes to those.
And what time were you thinking of starting these as far as time-wise?
I mean, that's going to be when we meet with the representatives from the tracks to see what, it would be per track and what works with people's schedules.
Okay.
Definitely in the evening, so the
Well,
majority of
absolutely.
people could come.
Yeah, but not too late because.
Right, so we didn't go through all those details yet. This was
Okay.
an outline that we were
Okay.
providing because it could be, it's going to be different per track, and we want to find out how to maximize per track.
And that way you can
The
tweak
value.
after one and say, you know what, this worked better than
Exactly.
something. So that we can, again, like the campus improvement plans, we can
Yeah.
continue to improve or change
Right.
things as we need to. Okay. Do you have some questions?
Yeah, questions, comments. When you said 5
No
meetings,
comments.
I kind of went like, oh, whoa, because we're already going to 2 meetings a month, and I know the district, they have meetings every single day, evenings and activities going on. PTA, PTO. It's always been in my mind, how could we be a representative at the PTA or PTO meetings? Because that's where the parents go.
Those are during the day, though.
They are?
The one when our elementary was during the day.
Really?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Right after school.
Okay, I mean, I've always been
I
aware
guess
that they were in the
that's-
evenings, but I think
Yeah.
to utilize where the parents are going and then assign one of us to maybe, can you make it for your
And
your
we
track?
don't anticipate everybody going to all of them by any means. I mean, it's who can make it, if you're able to be there kind of thing. I'm committing to be at all 5, but we don't all need to be committed to that.
And I'm concerned about the staffing.
Question.
And not everybody has to be there.
Oh, okay,
And not
questions
everybody
on-
has to be,
okay.
it might be the principal from that school directly. We're not asking all the administrators to be at every one of them either.
The
So
other
you-
question I had is when you said budget, so we're talking money. How do we,
So if we
How do we
can get
raise
some
the
food
money?
donated, wonderful. We want some light foods and some giveaways. If not, then we can have a small budget for it.
where
I
would
don't
that
know
money
that-
come from, though?
Again, those are the details that we have to discuss in our committee. Y'all wanted an outline, and so
Okay.
this is the outline
Okay.
that we provided.
Okay, so basically, the question, I guess, is that this is a working start, and you're going to, if we approve this on, is there something that we need to approve on Thursday, is what I'm asking?
Yes, that y'all are good with this, and then we move on and speak to, we
Okay.
have, remember we said the last one, we weren't allowed to reach out to any administrators or
Right.
anything until we approve this, so
Okay.
now we can move forward and see what works.
Okay, so then if you'll clean that up and get it to Karen, so we'll have something physically to look at and be able to comment more, because we can't comment tonight. We can only ask questions, and then for us to make a motion for approval for
Okay, so it
Thursday.
needs to be in writing?
Would you
You're
like it, or would you like a copy? Yes, please.
Okay, sure,
Okay. If that's all right with you?
sure.
Okay. Any other questions for right now? All right. Thank you for your work.
Sure.
Okay.
And one more thing I want to throw out real fast is that with the Naviance, we had talked a little bit about if at these things, we could have a couple maybe computers set up, and if people want to talk, if somebody doesn't know how to use Canvas, then we could have a couple things set up. And so we could coordinate something possibly with, if we're going to have training at the schools already, we could coordinate with that as well.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
The next item, we ask that the Board of Trustees approve the purchase of interactive flat panels and installation hardware and services from Parino, is that right? Parino, okay, consulting, not to exceed $355,270.45, plus a 10% contingency, $35,527, for a total of $390,797.45. And the purchase of interactive flat panels and televisions and installation hardware and services from Pro Computing not to exceed $531,231.87, plus a 10% contingency of $53,123, for a total of $584,354.87. And electrical work from Urbish Electrical not to exceed $30,000.
I have a couple of questions.
Okay, go ahead.
We're going to be purchasing 175, many of which are out of date, out of warranty, and they're failing.
Yes, sir.
Is this an across the board, we're replacing in all three schools, every one, and we're just going to cherry pick the ones that work after?
No, so we'll be replacing, we like to keep campuses consistent, it's much better that way. And so any that are still viable, we'll repurpose in other locations until the location is ready to be replaced.
So in the three schools, how many of these do you have, roughly? I mean, is this like half of them, is this all?
No, all of them.
We're replacing every single one at each of these
In
three
all three
campuses.
schools? And that's a total of 175?
Yes.
And there's so many of these in each of those three schools that it makes more sense to just replace them than to go in and...
Yes, sir. We buy each one of these, well, in the past, we're replacing older projectors and older panels with, older boards with what are called panels. It's like a big TV now. It's all in one, higher quality and everything. So when the projectors or the boards get old enough, we do replace them. We buy everything with a 5-year warranty, and when they get to 7-ish years, it's time to replace them.
And we just did something recently, we just approved something recently at
Yes, sir.
Campbell.
We have a plan that takes us through fall of 2020. That was all in the 2017 bond. And each semester, basically, we're bringing you 3 or 4 campuses, depending on the size. And these are just the next 3 campuses in line of the master plan here. And after this will leave 10 campuses remaining out of the 17 bond project.
Do you have a question?
Okay, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Arredondo, how old is that school? It's under 5 years, isn't it?
Yeah.
4 years.
3?
But they don't have the newer.
So they didn't have new equipment? They didn't have this new when the,
Yes, they did. We don't put old equipment in the new campus.
No, but this is a different model, right? than what-
Yes.
I'm just wondering, that's a newer school, and it's
Yes.
saying that these things are already out of date.
So-
I don't think it's been 5 years.
No, it's a combination, and I don't remember, I think this is a result of, I believe Arredondo is a result of the projectors. The boards are still functional, but the projectors don't last as long, and bulbs are expensive to replace. So it's actually, we have to kind of work the difference between when the projectors are failing and the boards are failing. In the future, we won't have that issue because they're now like a big TV, like a big 75-inch TV. So if there are a few projectors that we can replace, that we can repurpose, we will, as well as the panels.
I understand that part. I just thought Arredondo was fairly, I consider it fairly new
Yeah,
school.
it was.
Why that particular school was-
Unfortunately, they're failing a little bit
Do you have
before
some
their time.
other schools that are in the same
No.
timeline? Okay.
This is the kind of stuff that the taxpayers in this county who do not have children in school just go, it drives them batty. It's like, what do you mean? You got a 4-year-old school and you're going to go through and you're going to replace everything? What? And I'm not looking for a comment from you. I'm just making a comment myself. And that's the frustrating thing.
But the good thing is, you are replacing it with modern, updated,
Yes,
and we
ma'am.
should not have this
It's not the
problem.
same thing.
Yeah,
Right,
we're not going to have this
And
problem.
repurposing anything that's still viable.
Okay.
I have a question. Are there schools that have older technology than, say, Arredondo, that it has not been replaced?
No, what we did was, we mapped this out, and I'm holding kind of our master plan here, and it's really by semester, fall, spring, and summer semesters. So, no, we replace it the oldest first.
Okay, so there's no schools with, say, 10, 15-year-old
No, sir.
smart boards,
No.
anything like that?
No, sir. Computers, projectors, everything we replace on an age cycle, on a refresh cycle.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
The next, those are all the action items, Madam President.
Okay, but there was that D, 9D1, did we do that one?
Or did I?
149?
Approval of appraisers.
Oh, I'm sorry. I got ahead of myself. I'm sorry.
I had one more.
We ask that the board approve the appraisers who have recently become certified as new Lamar CISD staff. And the list is there for you.
Are there any patrons?
There are none.
Okay. All right. Then we can go on to information items.
Yes, we can. Of course, we have the shack update.
Is there-
And then we do have a brief presentation for special ed update.
Is that tonight?
Yeah, we can do that tonight if that's
That's
the
all
pleasure
right
of the
with
board.
everyone? Okay. Let's go ahead and do that.
And then after that one, we'll defer the rest of
Okay.
any comments until.
Okay.
Oh, no. We want to talk about money, and then we can defer the rest of it.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. I'm just going to talk briefly about our teacher retention and about our percentage of students who do not qualify. This is also a result of the operational audit, and so it's just an update for you. So for our percent of students who do not qualify for special education, as you can see in 2015-16, almost half of the students that we assessed for special education did not qualify. Again, that was a year where we had a dip in our numbers, a dip in the referrals, and we did a lot of training that following year in 2016-17. And as you can see, the number dropped pretty drastically, which is good. Each year we've gone down to last year, even with our high number of referrals. Our D&Q rate was 16%. The goal is to get to less than 10%. And so we're hoping with our RTI work that we will reach that goal very soon. As far as special education teacher retention rate, in 2015-16, we had a 93% retention rate, and then it was at 90%, then to 92%, and then down to 83%. And that definitely is a result of caseloads and numbers, almost things that we can't prevent. However, when we started to look at that data, we started to determine and we separated between teaching units versus district level staff such as diagnosticians and counselors and things like that. So when we looked at that, the district level instructional and related services retention rate was 86% in 2015-16, and it went up slightly in 16-17, and it has decreased the last 2 years. Again, the number of kids that we are testing, that is definitely overwhelming for some of our assessment staff. And so although we do add positions, it's difficult to fill the positions as well. So our goal, of course, is to increase that to above 90%. And we are doing a lot of training as well as just individual meetings to kind of hear people out, like what are your concerns, so that we can hopefully retain our staff. The goal is to retain staff so that we can develop better assessment staff, counselors, and when I say counselors, we have special education counselors, as well as our related service staff like occupational therapists and physical therapists. As far as the teacher retention rate, that for the district is 87%. For special education, it's 81%. So as you can see, the special education teacher retention rate is slightly lower than our related service staff. But again, we're just hoping that with our training that we're putting in place for all programs, including resource and inclusion, as well as our self-contained programs, that we'll be able to increase that percentage rate. And that's all I have. Do you have any questions?
When they leave the special ed, are they leaving the district, or are they just asking to be out of the special ed umbrella and go into the regular classroom?
So the way our system works, when we calculate a retention, it means they've actually left the district.
Okay. All right. Thanks. Are there any other questions? I see one down here.
I did have a question. So I see the first where you have the does not qualify, and there's definitely a line going down, which is really good.
Right.
But that means that there's more students in special education. And we
That'll
saw that,
qualify,
I think that was a couple months ago, where it shot up.
Right.
And then we see the special education teacher retention rate went down. And it sounds like from what you're saying, those two things might be related because those teachers and caseloads are going up.
Right.
So I guess the simplest way to ask my question is, why aren't we hiring more teachers to lower the caseloads?
Well, we actually are. Our issue is just filling the positions. Sometimes it's just difficult to find special education teachers. There's a shortage across the state. We're not the only school district with the vacancies, and that's why we have to make it very inviting to come to Lamar, because teachers just have a choice right now.
So how many spots are we looking to fill?
Right now, well, I don't know the exact number, only because we request additional teaching units as the need arises. And since we've done our beginning of the year review, we have requested some additional staff just last week. And so upon approval of that, it could, rise above approximately 20 units.
Would part of the TASB survey for the 2019-2020 TASB survey that we're doing, is part of that to see if we're competitive specifically in special education?
Yes, it is. We'll look at stipends and straight salary.
All right.
Yeah, it's all of the units, not just special ed.
Sure.
All of them.
Okay. One more question?
When you said the testing it was overwhelming for the teachers, their caseloads. I know they have to test the kids. Does the teacher, while she's having a class, have to test these students?
No.
I'm trying to figure out what is overwhelming for them.
Okay, so you're combining two things. The teachers aren't assessing the students for eligibility purposes. That's the diagnosticians, LSSPs, speech pathologists. But teachers have paperwork, of course. With special education, there's a ton of paperwork. And when you look at the number of students, the paperwork, the expectations, it just, depending on, how long you've been in education, some people just prefer not to do that if they have any other types of certifications. But again, this is just more recent that we're seeing the decline to this degree. And again, that's across the state. It's not just here in Lamar.
Would it help if we had assistance to the teachers? Is there any kind of because I know the paperwork gets it.
Right.
And that's the biggest thing teachers just don't want to do. They want to teach.
Right. Well, we do have assistance for teachers. We have special education instructional facilitators that assist teachers, especially first-year teachers, where they go and sit with them. They help them work through the paperwork to ensure that they know what they're doing and they're not frustrated. We also have meetings for them as well, monthly meetings to assist with that. So there's a lot of support for teachers.
Thank you.
All right, we're good. Okay, thank
questions?
you.
Thank you.
At this time, we might, the rest of the information items, if you have questions or comments about them on Thursday, if we can go ahead and move to closed session at this time for Texas Code Sections 551.071, 551.072, 551.074, and 551.082, the Open Meetings Act, and it is now 7:51. They took my computer away. We're coming back in session at 8:53. I think if that's all for this evening, we are adjourned at 8:53 and a half.